Yeah. Okay. So, just a quick little trade recap from yesterday. So on the day, starting off from trading along the day, yesterday we took three positions, right? Scaled in some more first entry, second, and third. Came out to a total of 194. So really, really good, right? Um, I would say like 50% good, 50% bad. Just because let's get into the trade, right? This was a trade here. As you guys can see, I did take a position here, here, here. One, two, three positions, right? I targeted down here, this kind of gray zone right here, which I hit perfect. And actually, I had realized that I didn't really mark this out correctly. Should have been more. I should have been covering this way a bit more. Technically, it hit literally perfect on that gray zone, right? That was again for me not being. I need to be a bit more precise, right, when it comes to this right here. Um, because I was gonna hold it a little bit more, a little bit off, waiting for it to hit. Then I realized that it was covering the full width right here, full width. So I would have barely touched it, right? And that's exactly where I had took profits, right, based on this width right here. It was rejected, right? And truthfully, it was already late in the day, late at night, and like I said, I was a bit confused, more like right here on this. I remember on the previous video I had said, so this is what I had said, right? In the previous video I had said that if this level here of resistance were to break, I was going to exit my position, right? I was going to have these two only. Um, but then as I ended that video and I started to kind of analyze a bit more, I was kind of overthinking. Well, it actually ended up playing out. I thought in the moment I was overthinking it. But in reality, it was the correct move. Because we still broke it, right? We still broke this here, but I didn't pull it out, right? And I said I was, but I didn't because I was analyzing this, and I was like, but on the M5, this is still being maintained. I was catching this level. Then I was just kind of rethinking it, and I was just like, damn, like, if this is not a real break, um, and or what if I'm just looking at the time frames different, like wrong, you know what I mean? I'm not looking at it correctly. I was just overthinking it. Fast forward, I ended up holding this position here, but I told myself, okay, I understand it's a bit more bullish based off the fact that we did on M1, obviously kind of transitioning to more like a bullish state. Um, yeah, more of a bullish state, and then if but all I wanted to see at this point in time was just kind of look a little bit lower high point here, which we obviously did it here, a bit lower high point. Because I knew that if we can do that, then we have to have the chance to kind of push down, right? Which we did, right? So again, this is 50-50, right? I'm giving myself like 50% credit just because obviously I did hold out. Like I still, it wasn't just like I'm hoping because I even entered the position here, understanding structure and stuff. But I think I was just overcomplicating this here. Um, and this turned into a little hype, right? So it wasn't like, it was kind of like I was kind of holding it and kind of wanting to see more. And then I ended up seeing what I wanted to see. But even then, me holding it out shouldn't have been bad, right? Because at the end of the day, I told myself I was going to close out. Didn't, still held. And then I got fortunate in seeing what I wanted to see, which I took another position here. I took these three. They were all 0.5, as you guys can see here, 0.5. But and the reason why I'm only giving myself like this wasn't a good trade, I say, because I was really focused on more this counter trend, right? This counter trend here. But so let's break this down based off the H1, right? Based off this H1 time frame here. I was trying to get in on this counter trend. Right? I was trying to think that okay, based off this counter trend here on H1, I was still trying to get in. I was thinking that I was going to pull back maybe potentially to this MA here, right? Um, and that's the trade that I was going to try to take, is an H1 counter trend. Um, yeah, but that wasn't the case because we never really transitioned based off of our time frames like M5. We never really transitioned on this, right? What I mean by this is kind of me analyzing this like right now, a couple minutes ago, and just kind of realizing what I was missing. I feel like I tend to do this a lot. I always focus on kind of the current, and I get lost as to the overall picture, right? And I just start trying to trade this here, which is still good, right? I'm not trying to take anything away from this because at the end of the day, all our entries were perfect. This is how you want to trade. This is how I want to trade, right? Taking these lower highs, another lower high here.
At 10. I'm getting ready.
Okay. Taking this lower high. And then, so then to break this down, right? So we're starting off here. So technically on the M5 time frame here, what I should have been seeing is the fact that this is still bullish, right? It's still bullish trend. We still have this higher low here, right? And then we kind of have a little, obviously higher low or a higher high, right? If we would fib this out, I would have seen that this is 6.3.6. Cool. Modify. All the way up here, right? So this was on M5. This was just a full on, like 100% basically retrace, right? You kind of came within our kind of golden zone, but overall more like 100% retrace. Actually, I can take this off. 100% retrace. I should have known that based off M5, we were still like bullish, right? With this little trend here that was in, it never really ended, right? We kind of counter trending. We were counter trending based off M5. This here was like an M5 counter trend, right? But overall, not like so. For me to think that H1 was gonna start counter trending, I needed at least, right, for M1 to start counter trending, at least needed M5 to transition into a full bearish trend for me to even think that, you know what, I start counter trending. I could have taken these sales for sure, but then obviously seeing that it obviously rejected here and made a double bottom, we're still gonna maintain kind of bullish structure and kind of push up, right? So with that being said, it broke this lower high point here on M5, right? Now, once again, here I was a bit, what I had thought previously that we need to break this to fully think that we're going to be more bullish, which is still the case right here on H1. It would have been this resistance, but I need to obviously understand that obviously it doesn't have to be all a big push. Like I said, we still broke this lower high point here. Once we broke this lower high point here, and if we were to fit this out, let's say it's going to be here. But this would have been a what? Like a 61.8 retracement, hitting that golden zone, right? So then when it broke this, that would have been the first, like this right here, transition all this back into a bullish type of move, right? So we kind of transitioned back into a bullish move. So at this point in time, we would have been higher low here. We would have been higher low here, higher high here, right? And that would have been the trend. So now we're kind of transitioning back into this point A, point B, came back to it once again. A golden zone, right? A little bit past, maybe like a 88 or something, but overall, kind of just maintained consolidating these golden zones, right? But seeing this, I should have been understanding that this is still a bullish trend, like we're still bullish here. But focus on current and kind of what I wanted to see rather than what I'm actually seeing or what's actually going on. So yeah, so this was just a big counter trend. That's all that was. So here I should have been understanding that I'm literally just entering a counter trend based off the M5 once again. Nothing crazy, right? Just M5 counter trend. All this. So let's get to right here. So this is just kind of this area here where I was overthinking it. Because here, right here, this area right here, we go M1. Like we said, we did break this area here. We broke this level of resistance right here. Boom. So this was like a higher high, right? Higher low, higher low, higher high. Right? Like this, a little bit very tight. But just to like understand this move. This would have been like a 38.2. So I would have understood that we broke a 38.2 pretty much right here. Right, and kind of transition this little area right here into like normal bearish state. Right, because we're 38.2, I feel like lower time frames will be better analyzing. This is a bit intense, and this is where I was kind of confusing myself and really doubting myself, because at the end of the day, this was like I was thinking that lower time frames, like all this had to be analyzed more lower time frames, but also I need to understand that if it's seen on here, this resistance is seen on here. That's where I gotta go on, right? Because basically, even based on M5, right, this resistance here, right here, is basically an M5 resistance. I can see it on this level. But what gets to me sometimes is that sometimes I need to understand that I can still focus on the overall trend, like higher low, higher high, and bullish, but I can still focus on this time frame on M5. I tend to do kind of like I'll focus on the overall trend here, and then I'll go straight to lower time frames, and feel like I need to just focus on lower time frame for this lower trend. But like I said, in this case here, it maintained this level of resistance. It's still a resistance of M5. But in the moment, I just thought that the minute I see a break on M1, then that's it, because it's more condensed. So I feel like because it was more condensed, it's more valid time frames to a certain extent. I don't know. And it was just for me seeing here, realizing this, because even so, just for this example here, on Empire, this resistance maintained, and it's a bit consolidating, but I can still see it on this time frame. If we go down to M1, real quick. If I go to M1 time frame here, it's the same thing. Like here is a bit consolidated. I thought I needed to see this on lower time frames, right? Like analyzing this little area here based on lower time frames. I thought like it's so condensed I can't read it. I won't understand anything. That all my brains need to be on lower time frames, you know. But like I said here, if we base everything based off this time frame, like I said, this is still tested. It never broke through. This was just one big high point. So obviously that pushes down. But that's the thing, I should need to understand that. Sometimes I feel like I need to see everything on the time frames. When it's so condensed. But I feel like guys tend to lose like kind of its value based on this time frame, because I feel like it's not valid. It has to be seen on lower time frame. You have to see, you know what I mean? Good break, all that. Kind of like this here, like this resistance here a little bit. So we see this resistance. I feel like on lower time frame, that's what that it is, right? It is that on the lower time frame. That's where I just tend to kind of fall apart. But nonetheless, like I said, so based off this M1 time frame, that's what basically made me hold this position here, right? This is why I held it, because at the end of the day on M1, we weren't breaking this level, right? And I was seeing that, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go based off that. We're not breaking this resistance. I understand that we transitioned a bit bullish based on the time frame, right? Higher low, higher high, but we're not breaking this lower high point here, and still overall maintaining like a big lower high point. And now seeing it too, is would have been like the perfect little like ascending triangle, right? Boom, boom, maintaining one level of resistance, high lows,
Because I had it outside
high
and
lows,
put it inside.
and then
And
pushing
that's
this
all
way
I
downside
combined.
here.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
And so, this one H1 time frame. Based off H1, yeah, like so, we ended up making a true higher low point here, which we never broke. So now, we could have answered this price with obviously at the 78.6 retracement. Now we see this lower high point here. And then we ended up also breaking this here, so this would have been 100% break right here, based off this time frame here. But based off M5, I'm kind of get confused about. Because yes, I understand that you put this little high point and it's perfect. Shift it. So I understand that. I understand the point that this is just basically one big retracement here. So 61.8, 78.6. That retracement right there. The day. This here was a lower high point. This is a high low point. High, low. And still something, so this is still that point. So yes, we still need a break. So even if we broke this here, right, so I feel like that's the difference between kind of what I maintained, like here and here, right? Because technically here we still have that little break up. We have that full. These all lower time frames. This was the one. Still maintain it. Just okay. I need to kind of figure this a bit out a bit more. This is where I'm saying you confused, but I think overall we get this higher low point here. Boom. Higher high. So this is kind of this transition here based on this little structure here, right here. Higher low, higher low, higher low. But obviously still maintaining the main right. This main level of support. And support. Boom. Higher low, higher high, main support. Yeah, so this is kind of where I'm kind of stuck on how it interfaces with this here. And obviously transitioning to bullish once this resistance here broke. We're now solid more bullish. And then we obviously still ended up maintaining that bullish structure. Bullish structure. Creating higher low points. Okay, so that's something that I just gotta be looking at this right there. More just here. Yeah, this is where we're stuck. This is where we're just stuck. I get the overall picture now. I get that I should have been more overall, not really focused on kind of what's currently. It's still good. I should have just understood. I didn't understand that I was going to M5 trend. I thought that it was just a big. We could have transitioned to like an H1 counter trend. That's obviously my fault. Thinking like that because it's just I think so broad at times, and then I go down to lower time frames. I'm just so focused on like the big things, so it doesn't really make sense. But we're high. So we kind of transitioned here. We broke this here. Still ended up maintaining that same level here. So same thing with the M1, right? Breaking this thing. This right here was like 100% retrace, basically here to here. Then we over it. We got 38.2, got 38.2 broke. this one more transition into my bearish play, and then we're going to be maintaining that one level of resistance, right? So same thing here, right? We break this here for 8.2, and that's something that we don't do here. We still break these little lower high points. So this is the overall, pretty much just transition this into a bullish. This is 100% retrace once again, right? 100% retrace. Low. Push. Higher low, higher high. Actually, I'm still overall maintaining this one level here. So like I said, the difference between that over there and one, and this here, where we still broke this resistance level, right? High. So I'm still under the trade this level here, not really making it one level here. And then essentially this is the one this whole trend. Then here's point B, and 8.6, and then taking that. So it's the only difference is that we obviously lower time frame. And over here, still need to break this thing here. Okay, really want to dial into more on this, but that's pretty much how I'm looking at it right now. Higher low, higher high, and they're breaking this resistance. So that's kind of what at least kind of us coming back into the bullish play. I feel like an entry here would have been super stupid, but the fact that we're still maintaining this high, low type of thing. We broke the MA. So yeah, that's where we're gonna leave it at. We'll dial this back in a bit more, but really just things I need to focus on, right? Just overall picture, understanding the current picture. This was good, right? Because I understood what's happening here. Overall, like as things developed, I understood that I was still able to maintain it. Once again, so I was not 0.5 lots, so it wasn't much. Like it wasn't like I feel like that was another thing too, because there wasn't enough money on the line for me to actually be scared and actually be worried about the money and me losing money, right? That I was able to actually focus on the move. But I feel like if these were actually 1 standard lots, 2, 3, or whatever the case may have been, it would have been a lot more, then I would have been a lot more scared. But so this is where I need to dial in the structure. I'm really understand the structure. Like 0.5s are my lot size as of right now. That allow me to still make money. So I still make almost $200, right? Which is still good, still really good, and it still allows me to be comfortable. Allow me to trade. So yeah, so I feel like we need to work on this a bit more, get a bit more precise. Really focus on what I did here. Focus on what I want next, right? Because again, I was just on this little move, and I missed out on all of this. So